Yeah, I'm not concerned about this yet. I think I'll become give me 50 years and I'll be an overnight success.
I hear you. But you are concerned about a magnetic reversal, and you are concerned about a little ice age unfolding.
I am right now very concerned about a little ice age. The magnetic reversal, it's harder to put a date on that, but I think because little ice ages correlate so well with the sunspot cycle, I fear that we're headed into a little ice age right now.
How does that translate for our lives?
During the last little ice age, the glacier levels in the mountains moved down the mountains, I think about 1,000 feet, something like that. Now, they didn't have, during the last little ice age, they didn't even have thermometers. They hadn't been invented yet. And so it's hard to look at the literature and know exactly. They have to go by what happened. But in the Alps, there were farmers who were petitioning for lower taxes because their fields were actually covered by ice. And so that would be an indication that it happened. The Thames River, in London, every year they were able to go ice skating on it, and the ice was thick enough that they would actually hold fairs out on the ice. The other thing, though, is that was food, and that's a big thing that I'm worried about.
That's huge.
Now, is that during the last little ice age in England, for instance, it didn't necessarily get all that much colder, but they began having a lot more precipitation. It rained more in the winter. The rainy season lasted 5 weeks longer in the spring and began 5 weeks earlier. Well, what that meant is that farmers were not able to harvest their crops, and literally millions of people died of starvation. There's articles in the literature that people didn't want to get thrown in jail because there was cannibalization in the jails. There's articles about parents eating children. It's horrible stuff. So my fear is that long before we're covered with ice, that we're going to be fighting in the streets for food. I just put a thing on my website this morning on iceagenow.com, is that in South Korea right now, they are hoarding cabbage. And a lot of the South Koreans eat, they eat kimchi like 3 times a day. But because of the amount of rain in South Korea, the cabbage prices have gone up 400% in the last year. So it'd be a little bit like if here in the United States, the price of bread went from $2.25 a loaf to $10 a loaf in 1 year. That's what I'm worried about. Now, I don't sell food. There's no link on my website selling food, but I am really encouraging people to stockpile food because I think that is going to be the biggest problem we're facing. Right now in Canada, they've had one of the rainiest summers on record, if not the rainiest, and a lot of their crops are just rotting in the fields. They haven't been able to harvest them. Even the pumpkins, a lot of them, they're not even sure they're going to have enough pumpkins for people to eat in the Canadian prairies. So that's what concerns me the most, Kim.
Do you feel that NOAA and our weather, quote, authorities are giving accurate weather information to the public in each city, state, and country?
No, I absolutely do not. I don't trust NOAA and NASA anymore on their climate stuff. And I think you had Joe DeLeo talk about this, but there used to be like 6,000 or 7,000 weather stations around the world that NOAA and NASA would get their figures from. And now, when the Soviet Union collapsed, there were like thousands of those stations in the north that just disappeared because nobody could afford to man those stations anymore. So they don't get the information anymore from those kinds of areas. There used to be, like I said, there's 6,000 to 7,000 stations. Now there's only like 1,200 stations, And so NASA guesses what the climate might be doing or what the weather might be doing. And most of the stations that have disappeared are stations in the north. So all we're getting mainly information from the southern stations. And so, of course, it biases the whole thing, and it makes it look as if there's a lot of global warming. It's just about impossible to get the truth.
So how is the weather generated on television, for example? How do they do it?
Well, there's so many meteorologists that agree with me that don't agree with the idea that we're headed into to great global warming. And one meteorologist, I don't know if you've interviewed him, I wish you would, is Joe Bastardi.
I haven't.
Oh, I wish you would. He's good. He's on AccuWeather.com. But he talks about this coming winter is going to be a bear. His dad was a meteorologist before him, and he's just passionate about what he's doing, and he has records going back as far as records go, and so he's able to look at what happened before. He's able to look at the Pacific decadal oscillation and things that others don't look at. But the meteorologists, the TV meteorologists that are out there, are saying, no, this is not true. And I'm trying to think of the TV meteorologist in San Diego and maybe I'll think of his name before the end of the program. But meteorologists are out there saying, no, it's not happening.
No, what's not happening?
The global warming is not happening. There's a especially man-made global warming. There's a climatologist in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, Cliff Harris, who's ranked as one of the top climatologists in the world. And he agrees with me enough that he has actually invited me to speak at a couple of the seminars and talks that he has put on. So that felt pretty good. But the ones who don't have a political axe to grind are saying, no, we're not having unprecedented global warming. On my website, on iceagenow.com, I actually have a chart there that shows that this is not even the warmest time in the last 10,000 years. If you go to iceagenow.com and you scroll down, you will see a chart there. The title is Temperatures Warmer Than Today for the Most of the Past 10,000 Years. But when you look at this chart, you'll see what was called the Little Dryas. It was a period about 12,000 years ago when we rapidly descended into a period of cooling, which correlates with that Gothenburg magnetic reversal. But then about 11,000 years ago, the temperature rose to higher than today, and then it zigzagged up and down, but it essentially was higher. Temperatures have essentially been higher than today for most of the past 10,000 years. And how we can say today, when temperatures actually have been going down based on that, how we can say that it's caused by humans is just a lie. I can't use any other word than it is a flat-out lie. Scientists have to know. They have to know.
I notice also on your site it says our glaciers are growing, not melting. How do you know that?
How do I know that? Well, with the pictures that we see, they show us pictures of melting icebergs. No one seems to be talking about the fact that glaciers are growing in the United States. And the newspapers don't mention it, the TVs don't mention it. But in Washington State, the Nisqually Glacier, I've been there 3 times, by the way, in the last 10 years. The Nisqually Glacier is advancing. On Mount Rainier, the Emmons Glacier is advancing. In California, the world of global warming, but on Mount Shasta in California, all 5 glaciers on Mount Shasta are growing. One of them has doubled in size in the last 50 years. Back in Washington, the glaciers on Glacier Peak are growing. Glaciers on Mount Shuckson are growing. In South America, glaciers are growing. I keep reading articles that saying they're melting, And yet there's the Pio 11 glacier, it's the largest glacier, I think, in Chile.